Welcome to the channel, guys. Today I'm going to be talking about Squid by Zoologist, so stay tuned for that. If you like the content, guys, don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button. I really do appreciate it. Squid is the newest release from Zoologist, and it's their first dive into a more aquatic, more watery fragrance. And I'm very excited to have finally gotten my nose on this one. I've heard a lot about it. It has a lot of interesting notes. It has top notes of incense, amyl, salicylate, and pink pepper. The middle notes are salt, opoponox, and ink. And the base notes are ambergris, musk, and benzoin. Now, when I first spray this one on, I actually get a very heavy, sweet, and salty dose from this fragrance, and it actually comes off a lot like a very nice melon. So it has what comes across to me as a sweet and salty melon accord. Underneath that, I do start to get a little bit of this inky vibe that a lot of people do talk about with this fragrance, but it is dominated by this salty melon for the first, I want to say, about 15 to 20 minutes of this fragrance. And then what starts to come up to my nose is a lot more of those inky qualities. I start to get a lot more of this sort of green vibe, and it's an interesting green vibe because it certainly doesn't feel like a lot of other green fragrances. It does have this kind of aquatic, sort of sea green vibe to it, which is very, very interesting. And I also get an almost soapy accord. The soapiness does come across a lot like bubbly. So it's this sort of bubbly, frothy, inky, salty vibe. So it comes across as this salty, bubbly, inky kind of a melon vibe. It doesn't take long on my skin until the ink starts to really become one of the strongest notes in this fragrance. And definitely going into the mid of this fragrance, I get a ton of ink, and it's very dark. It's a very black ink, and at some points it feels like somebody's maybe spilled a fountain pen all over the place. So it has this very, very strong inkiness with that greenness as well. So I do get that greenness for quite some time. In the opening, that melon vibe, it doesn't last that long. It's very sweet and salty, but definitely going into the mid, I start to lose that melon. Also, going into the mid, I get a lot more of the incense. I don't really get it in the opening. I get it more in the mid, and it does come across as adding this sort of smoky darkness to the fragrance that goes along really well with the ink. Now, it's interesting that this is sort of Zoologist going into an aquatic, watery vibe because it's certainly unique, quite unique in that respect. This doesn't really have the traditional aquatic or watery feel that you get with a lot of other fragrances. More, it has things that allude to the ocean. So it has a saltiness, it has that frothiness, and it does also have that ink. So that all adds that dimension. And also, interestingly, as I mentioned, that green note does come across more as like an aquatic sort of greenness, a sort of almost seaweed-like accord, but it doesn't smell, again, like seaweed. It does certainly smell like a mysterious green, watery plant. So all of these things really contribute to this sort of picture that this fragrance paints, but none of them really have that watery quality that I think of anyways with your typical aquatics or watery fragrances. Now, going into the dry down, the inkiness certainly does die down a lot with this, so it doesn't become quite as inky. It dries down a lot less dark, but that is certainly there. I do get a lot of the saltiness as well, and I do get more sweetness from the ambergris, although it's still not a particularly sweet fragrance. The most sweetness I get with this is in the opening, and that melon vibe definitely gone. I also don't really get a lot of the greens anymore in the dry down, but I do get certainly a lot of that frothy, almost soapy-like quality. Overall, this is an interesting fragrance that is definitely very unique. It is Zoologist, and that's certainly what a lot of people have come to expect from the brand, and they certainly deliver with this fragrance. It also performs very well. I get good longevity. Definitely get 8 hours out of this one. It does have good projection and sillage for the first 2 or 3 hours, and then it does certainly get a little closer to the skin, but by no means a skin scent. I put this on again to test it one more time. I want to say about 3 or 4 hours ago, and as I'm moving my hand around, I am definitely still getting some of that sillage with that. So it's very, very good in that respect. This does perform very well. Also, it is interesting, if you can see that it has a nice blue color. I don't know any other fragrances that have a blue color quite like this. I mean, there's, I guess, Nautica, but it is interesting to see a blue colored juice as well. Anyways, overall, very unique, very interesting release from the House of Zoologist, and one that I definitely recommend you get your nose on. I feel like the saltiness and the inkiness is definitely one that's not going to be for everyone, and so it's definitely something you should check out before you purchase it. But if you want something that is aquatic without really being aquatic, but really paints this sort of picture, really well done picture of the ocean, this is certainly something you should try out. Anyways, guys, that's all for this one. Zoologist Squid. Go out there, get your nose on it, and as always, don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video.